All right, welcome back to Equal Time Soccer. I'm Matt Pravratsky alongside the big dog, Izzy Engle. Izzy, you just came back from, U.S. national team camp, scoring the goal, no big deal, overseas balling out. You are such a big time player on the scene. First time having you on. Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thank you. That means a lot to me. I'm such a pleasure to be here, and I'm really honored that you want to talk to me. Have me on the
We
show.
there's so much to get through, but like I said, we have to start with your youth national team experience. I think at least three camps now. I've lost track in the summer because it seems like you've had multiples just in the last
Yeah.
several weeks. So maybe up to four camps now. But I want to go back to the very, very first time you
Let's
get
do it.
called in.
Yeah.
Is it a phone call? Do you get
Mhm.
sort of whispers beforehand? What is the
This is
moment
kind of
that
fun.
you know?
Yeah. Okay, so the first one I went to was in June of last year,
Mm-hmm.
June of 2023, and it was in Wake Forest. And I remember I found out right after taking my AP Calculus BC AP exam. That was not easy, and I was like, "This sucks." Like that was not a fun experience. And then my mom was like, "You want to call me? Like, you want to call me?" And then she was like, "First, check your email." And I had no idea. I didn't know there was a camp coming up. Like, I didn't know like anything that was going on. And so I like look on my email, and it was like, "You've been invited to the U." It was U17 at the time, U17 national team camp, and I was in the parking lot, like walking out of this test. I was like, "Oh my gosh!" Like it was insane. And then I obviously called her right after, and she wanted to FaceTime me to like see what my face was like, and it was just like the coolest, like not full circle moment because there wasn't like a start, I guess, but it was the
Right.
coolest like way to find out. It wasn't a phone call, but it was like just even seeing that email. Then it was like then after that email was like email after email, like you need to get this medical form, you need to do this.
Right.
And so it was like, oh my gosh, this is actually real. Like this is like actually happening. And then I like got the roster, and like what's crazy is like that first roster, I knew maybe two other people going.
Right.
And this, like the most recent one, it's like I knew everyone but one person
Right.
previously, and then I met her, and then now we're good friends. And it's like crazy how that is more of a full circle moment of like,
Mm-hmm.
no, even just the people that you get to meet, like the whole experience itself is like something truly special. But you were right.
Mm-hmm.
It was Spain was my fourth camp,
Mm-hmm.
which is actually like I was thinking, I was like, man, four camps in 12 months. I mean, for anyone, like
Yeah.
everyone who was in all four of those camps, like it is a lot. I mean, it's like a total of like over a month of your time and your like energy and like
Yeah.
not like obviously it's like amazing and I take every moment for granted, but
Right.
it's like a stressful environment,
Yeah.
obviously. So especially the April. So there was one at the end of April and end of May. Those two
Mm-hmm.
were right back to back. I was like, I feel like I never left. Like we came right back into it, but Spain was unreal. Like just even the environment of flying with the
Yeah.
whole team, with all the staff, all the coaches, and then getting to play international games with like wearing the actual crest, wearing
Yeah.
a jersey, like doing the national anthem, like representing your country and something bigger than yourself. It was just absolutely amazing experience and something I'm super grateful for and hope that in the future it'll come again and it'll come obviously and like it would come in different locations and
Yeah.
just to continue to explore that part of it. But
Well, and there's so much to dive into. You talk about sort of the difference of very first camp, like what an incredible moment, if not full circle, just such a milestone
yeah,
of like, holy,
that's what it was.
holy shit, I'm called into the
Yeah.
national team. Like, oh my gosh. And you get called in and you mentioned sort of only really knowing one or two other people. And
Mhm.
then by now, a bunch of them. Is that just strictly because of all these camps? Is it because you've been
Yeah.
playing literally with this player pool or a bunch of this player pool each of these sort of camps along the last year?
I would think it was totally because of the amount, like just as like the more camps I would go to, like I remember for Chile, it was like
Yeah,
I knew half of the people then because there was a
yeah,
good amount that were in Florida, or not Florida,
yeah.
in North Carolina, and
Mm-hmm.
then there was a bunch of O5s that I've never met because North Carolina was just O6s, and then it became O5, O6,
Yeah,
and so that was like okay, like there's a lot of new people, like I'm just gonna and like you can, I'm sure you can tell, like, I'm a very just like expressive, passionate, like love to smile, love to laugh, like that kind of person. So like I would kind of just like kill them with like kindness of just being
yeah.
not up in their face, but just like be a nice person. And then it's like they would get to know me, and then like I would get to know them, and it was just this really cool relationship that
Right.
like there were some that like were there like North Carolina, and
Yeah,
then all of them, and like I got really close to like I'm thinking of one person specifically, but like I got really close to that person because I
yeah,
got four camps with them, and it's like you get excited to see their name on the roster, and you're like, oh, I get to go see my friends. Like I haven't
right.
seen my friends in a while.
Right.
And that was just something, even like going into it, like going into Chile after just North Carolina, like I was
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, I know what I'm getting, not getting myself into, but like I know what
Yep.
I'm getting myself into. I know the type of environment it's going to be. And I know that I know more people that I can like have that support around me. Like North Carolina was like in a way the first few days were a little tough because I was
Yeah.
just in my hotel room. Like we would play and it would be great. Like I loved the trainings and everything.
Yeah.
And then it's, I didn't know anyone. I would go in my
Yeah.
hotel room, I would go for a walk and call my mom. Like she was like, call me like once a day if you have time. I called her like 5 times a day. Like it was like the kind of thing where like so once I kind of understood like what I was doing, like got my footing, I
Yeah.
got to be more confident too, just like
Yeah.
meeting new people, like getting to know the old people better. And then by Spain, like I was like, I knew everyone, like, and you just want to make these new friends. And it was so, and like I still text people all the time. And also,
Yeah.
I mean, well, I'm sure we'll talk about it too, but there's 2 girls going to Notre Dame
Right. Right.
on the Spain roster. And like I've just gotten so close to them too, which was like,
Yeah.
and now we did Chile and Florida and
Uh-huh.
Spain with them. So like I've gotten super close to them. Like we
Yeah.
text almost every day. So there's just so much to like even look forward to in the future, like playing with them.
Uh-huh.
But every like that is sorry, I'm kind of rambling, but that's the sad part too with like even saying bye after Spain. I'm like, I don't know when I'm gonna see you guys again. And then
Right.
you become close because like you're doing
Mm-hmm.
these experiences together. So that's kind of, and I guess we will see each other when we play against each other,
Yeah.
but if they go to other schools. But that's kind
Yeah.
of the whole people thing. Like it is truly something special.
Well, I love you talking about that first camp of being like, I'm just in my hotel room, I'm just calling my mom. Was it like to me what jumps like deep in my marrow, I'm feeling the feeling where you're in a new place, you're like trying not to be weird, you're trying not to be like you're trying to like meet these new teammates, but you don't want to be the weird one. So it's
Oh
that
yeah,
awkward thing of like, well, I could ask them if they want to watch a show, but I don't know if
oh yeah.
they're hanging out or was it truly like first day at school bullshit like that?
Oh, like a little bit. And what was nice actually was North Carolina, like it was my first camp. It was like 7 or 8 girls as first camps too.
Right.
Like they just like brought in a ton of new girls. Like
Right.
obviously I'm thankful because I was one of them.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that actually did help. Like the first 3 days, I think all of us, not that like I only gravitated to the new girls, but like you have something in
Right.
common there. But like
Yep.
I think all the new girls were kind of just hanging out in their room. And then it was like we started like we did like full team stuff. Like I remember one night we were like playing Uno by the pool and stuff, and that was super fun. We had music and everyone was talking, everyone was hanging out. And
Yeah.
then I remember on the last night, me and like 3 other girls were watching a movie, all in
Mm-hmm.
the same queen bed. We were watching High School Musical or something.
Yeah,
And like
baby.
then it's like we're all watching the show, and I'm like, thankfully not the weird one who like had to reach out and be like, "You want to hang out?" Like, so like I mean, even over the last week, like even over just a week, like I
Right.
made some really good friends. Like I still FaceTime, like
Totally.
even if I haven't seen them in a year, and like that's just like a really cool part too, is like meeting all these different people from across the country.
Totally.
And like that's something that like I live in like obviously Minnesota, but it's like
Yeah.
Edina's like it's a bit of a bubble. Like I feel
Yeah.
like I mean, you hear like everyone, it's a bubble.
Totally.
And so like being able to meet people from such different backgrounds, such different like cultures even, but just like
Yeah.
hometowns, like they're all over the country and like you get to hear about their experiences. Like I
Right.
don't know. There's something very special about it.
Well, and it feels like you mentioned the thing of, it's not like a clicky thing, but like the new players do hang out together. It's the same as, all the college programs we cover, all the college players you interview. The reason you end up hanging out with the other players from your class is because you have that shared experience of like, we're all new, we're all sort of uncertain about what the vibe is, and so you can relate to them. And then that freshman experience ends up being a thing that makes you sort of, it's not anything insidious. It's like it's just natural. It's like we're all brand new. Oh
Totally.
man, I didn't know training camp would be like this. Oh, I didn't know lifts would be like that. I didn't know class would be like that. But for you, I feel like almost this national team experience of having to go in brand new, never been there, and then go in, new place, Pan America games, and then go in, new experience. It feels like it's sort of a good warm up for like the big step you're going to have when you go into at Notre Dame, and it's like you've toured it, you've talked to the coaches, blah blah blah, but it's sort of funny the national team camps, like what it means to like be good at going into a camp always feels so different to me than like when you've played for Edina for years, you've played for MTA for years, you're going to play for Notre Dame for, however many seasons. That's sort of like you get used to a thing and you get good at a thing.
100%.
Being in a camp is like this whole other deal. You're like, go play, Like how different was that for you of, yeah, I've done tryouts before, I've done tournaments before, I've played with high level players before, but how crazy was it to have the situation of, oh, not only do I not know anyone, I also need to show, like I need to perform if I want to get called back. What was that like for you?
Um, I mean, it was a completely like I couldn't even like compare it to tryouts. Like
Mm-hmm.
obviously, like I've done like even ECNL national like
Yeah.
selection camps. I would say actually that was like
Yeah.
more similar to the national team camp. Like that
Yeah.
was a bit of a preparing tool.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember like the whole week leading up, like obviously like you're nervous. Like I was
Yeah.
nervous.
Uh-huh.
And I remember just anytime anyone, which obviously I was really excited, but anytime anyone would ask me about it, I would be like, I am so excited. Like I literally wouldn't even mention being nervous. And I like kind of psyched myself out. Like to the night before, I was like, I'm like not even nervous right now. Like I'm just really excited to go play and like have fun. And it was a massive adjustment. Like
Yeah.
it was a massive adjustment. You're going and eating meals with people you've literally never met before. So you
Yeah.
got eight girls at a table. Some might know each other, some might not.
Yeah.
And you're like making small talk. And by the end, it turns into like you're laughing and you're telling stories.
Right.
But like at the start, it was for sure something. And I was just like, I'm gonna just come here. This is my moment. Like I've been waiting for this moment for years. And I was like,
Yeah.
it's my moment, and I'm not gonna take it for granted. I'm gonna go and I'm gonna play the best that I can. I'm gonna show
Yeah.
them what I can do. And I think that takes, I mean, you'll see everyone in those environments has to be selfish. Like you have to be a
Yeah.
little selfish. And I feel like maybe it's like not a
Yeah.
humble thing to say, but like I feel like I'm more of a selfless player. Like I love
Yeah.
like seeing my teammates and all that stuff. Love scoring goals myself, but like
Yeah.
love like the whole teammate aspect of the sport.
Yeah.
And I think going into this environment, it was like, okay, Izzy, like you gotta like fend for yourself here too. Like you
Yeah.
have to
Yeah.
be the nice person that you are. Like show love, show kindness to everyone, but like do it for yourself. Like come
Yeah.
on, go play. And like I scored goals in that camp, and I remember like
Yeah.
even afterwards, like I was talking to coaches, and it's always like, yes, this was an adjustment, but they're like, we think you did a great job, like
Mm-hmm.
coming into a new environment and just showing us what you can do. And it takes a
Right.
couple of days. Like I would say, like probably didn't really fully play like myself till day 2 or 3 for sure. But
Yeah.
once I hit that, then it was like, and then once the opportunity came for Spain, that was when I was like, okay, I did pretty well. Like I must have done well, like done something right, I guess. But it is a lot about that mindset and
Yeah.
mentality, like when you're in those environments of like, yeah, you're nervous, but you can't think about that. Like nervous energy is good and it's gonna help you perform better and it's gonna help you care about what you're doing, but you can't like let little mistakes get the best of you either.
Well, and you mentioned that balance of, it's like trying to be a good teammate, like, get
Mhm.
connecting with people, not being an asshole, but
Yeah.
then also part of the vibe is like, well, if you need to be like a goal scorer, you also have to have sort of like a killer mentality. And
Totally.
there's that balance is so funny for someone like you that's like outgoing, but you're trying to be kind, but you need to be confident, but you have to be humble. And there's a story your high school coach Katie Hoppett told me about. You were like you're a freshman on the Edina high school team, which if folks follow, is a very successful team. You're a
Yeah.
freshman and you score this big goal against, Minnetonka or one of your rivals or whatever.
Yeah.
And you go over to her on the sideline, give her a hug, and you say to her, "Thank you for the opportunity." And she was like, no, thank you for scoring that goal."
I can't lie. I don't remember that. I think I've had a lot of memories from Edina. So many amazing. Edina soccer is something we can talk about that too. Something so special to me. I don't remember that, but I would totally see myself doing that. I mean, I remember I called her Coach Offit and then Coach Katie for the longest time in
Mm-hmm.
my freshman year, and she was like, Izzy. And like if you know Katie, like you know Katie. So
Yeah.
she's like very much not the kind of person that like she wants a freshman calling her coach. Like she was like, Izzy, call me Katie. And I would keep calling her Coach Katie. And she was like, and it was kind of maybe it was a respect thing, obviously. And like my
Yeah.
parents thought that instilled
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
But I remember like that freshman year, I was obviously nervous. I'm like, I'm gonna like try to do my thing. And like I think I scored like a few like 3 goals or something. And then sophomore year was when I was like, okay, like
Yeah.
I'm not the new kid on the block anymore. And I was like, I'm young for my grade. I mean, I
Yeah.
said I'm 17. So like I'm gonna be
Yeah.
going. I think I leave for college 5 days after I turn 18.
Wow.
So
Yeah,
I
for
like,
sure.
really am like
Yep.
young for my grade. So I was like, oh my gosh, I don't even. I think I was 14 or
Yeah.
something when I started playing. Yeah, I think I was 14 for something like that. 14
Yeah.
or 15 freshman year. I
Yeah.
couldn't drive until I was doing I was a captain going to captain's practice and I couldn't drive.
Yeah.
It was like there was like a lot of this stuff where like made me feel like I was on the younger side, and it's like
Yeah.
I was one of 2 freshmen on varsity, and it was
Yeah.
very much like that, um,
Yeah.
difference in age and difference in experience. But I will say one thing is like Katie and all those seniors, especially my freshman year, they could not have made me feel more welcome, even though I was taking some of their playing time.
Yeah.
I was playing over them. I was starting over them, and
Yeah.
they made me feel so loved, so welcome, so nice to the point that like I was gonna do it anyways, but like I wanted to pay it forward for like
Yeah.
these 2 freshmen on varsity this year, and like I was giving them rides, like or we are all giving them rides and like
Yeah.
being kind, but it's like I wanted to do that because I know how special it was to me. So I think
Yeah.
especially for Edina soccer, like that's funny that like you mentioned that story because
Yeah.
I can't remember that. So I do remember that Minnetonka. It was a PK. It was the first ever PK I'd ever taken.
Uh-huh.
Like I think I drew it, and like they were like, "Okay, Z," and it was my first ever varsity goal. It's like, just please do not miss. Like this game was 0-0 against Minnetonka. I was like, please do not miss. I scored, so it was okay. But
Well, you talk about that sort of cultural piece of
mhm.
because you were a part of a really strong culture in that freshman season, then it built it sort of into your, you had it in your DNA then to say, okay, well, this is what made it successful for me is I had this good culture from these older players. You sort of then had it in your mind to be like, well, that's how we were successful. So now I want to create that good culture. Just the value of ever experiencing plenty of players and plenty of people like in a job and whatever never actually experience like a very successful, well built culture. Like it's hard to do it. There's a lot of things that go into it. And so, but once you experience it now, like when you went into like the national team camps, did you sort of have in your head how to balance that mixture of like individual success? Because obviously you need to show, players need to show. Do you feel like because you'd been in good cultures before, you had a good sense of here's how I balance the sort of not being an asshole, be a good teammate stuff with individually doing well so the team does succeed?
Yeah. I for sure think I'm blessed to have been I've been part of really good team cultures. I had club teammates like freshman year and they were like, "Man, like the seniors on my teams were jerks." And like I was like, "Man, like I did not get that. Like I did not have to
Mm-hmm.
experience that." So that
Right.
was just a massive blessing that I was part of really good team cultures. And I
Right.
think that for sure helped me going into like this brand new environment being like, I'm going to be a nice person.
Yeah.
I'm going to be competitive as crap on the field. I'm going to
Yeah.
want to win the ball because first of all, that's going to push other people. Like that was one
Yeah.
thing is like when I was, even though I was new, like I wanted to still like, I'm a leader. Like I wanted to lead by example. And even if it's not as much with my voice, because I'm this new person that people are like, why is
Yeah.
Izzy talking? Like this is our first camp. Like
Yeah.
I didn't actually think that, but like just leading by example, being competitive, going into tackles, going into all that. Like the US team talks so much about team culture. Like we would always have
Yeah.
for every camp I think we've done, like we had a culture meeting and like or culture talk. It would be
Mm-hmm.
like a 30 to minute to an hour meeting on our team culture and how we
Mm-hmm.
can represent the US and represent the crest and everything. And so I think that team culture was like they were trying really hard, and I think they did a pretty good job to
Yeah.
instill chemistry. Because I mean, you have to instill chemistry when there's like 20 girls who have never played together before. But
Yeah.
um, I think it for sure helped. Like I think I knew like going into it, if I am a team player, I'm
Yeah.
gonna show my strengths. Like the more that I
Yeah.
go for the team, but also like for myself, like playing for my sorry.
Yeah.
I'm trying to like say it,
I know what you mean. I know
but
what you mean. Well, because
like,
it's I
then
well
I'll
that
make the team succeed, and then
yeah.
we'll get more. Like if they see me like playing a really good through ball instead of going off on the dribble and like losing the ball or something,
Yeah.
and like
Yeah.
making a really good through ball and then getting the ball back and like scoring or something like that. Like they're gonna be
Yeah.
more impressed by that and the way that I used my teammate and then I got it back, like something like that. Instead of me like trying to just dribble through which like I
Yeah.
love doing that too, but like
Yeah.
you know what I mean. I think you know what I mean to say. It's like
Well,
hard
I think
to get the words off, but
and I think too, like I haven't watched a ton of your game, but I've seen when you're with the youth national team and those games are streamed. I've seen, thankfully, you have a fun highlight video I was able to watch, which was really fun. But
I don't know how long ago that
you're someone who's like an attacking midfielder, like a 10, like an attacking central midfielder. The funny thing is, like, some of the selfishness is the value you provide. So
Mhm.
like if you are someone who
Yeah.
demands the ball, like you're checking to the ball and you're demanding the ball, that's not really an ego play. Like
Mhm.
teams need the
Yeah.
10 on their team to find the pocket and demand the ball because if you know where your spacing is and if you know your reads, you are the one that helps get the ball up the field by presenting that option. And so, the selfishness of I need to go demand the ball
Mhm.
is what unlocks the team offense. So it's
Yeah.
kind of like they're not
It is,
competing ideas, you know.
yeah. No, it for sure is a balance. And I think with that comes a ton of humility and just knowing
Mm-hmm.
like you're not where you are. Like I can score however many goals, but I wouldn't
Yeah.
be there without the teammates that set me up. So it's always
Yeah.
like that balance too of making sure like my head can't be big. Like I wouldn't be here without my teammates. So it's like I don't know. I think that helps. Obviously, you stay in check and like check
Yeah.
yourself. And be like I am a team player. This is a team sport, but there is that element of like
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, if I go off on the dribble, will people be mad if I score the goal? Maybe
Yeah.
they'll be mad if I didn't pass and I don't score, but like if you score, they
Right.
can't really be mad. You know what I mean? So it is just that balance, I guess, um, I don't want to say word balance, but
That is,
balancing both ends of it too.
but that is 100% true. It's like, well, yeah, if you make a decision that theoretically is a quote unquote bad shot, but if you score it, it becomes a good shot. So
It
it's
becomes
like,
exactly, yeah. And if scores, it goes in, and no one really remembers how the goal goes in. So it just goes on the score sheet.
last two things on the national team
Mhm.
stuff. So I'm really curious. You got called in around the time Maddie Deline also started getting called in. Different age groups, obviously,
Yeah.
but around that time is there was some overlap when you both sort of jumped back into the national team setup. You know, I've talked to basically any Minnesotan who's been called into those youth national teams I've had on back in the day when it was
Mhm.
Nikki Elbrecht or April Bakken or, you know,
Yeah.
whoever. But it had been a little bit of a gap, and then Maddie, obviously, who's been on, and we featured her a couple times, got on. You know, I think a little ahead of you had been in with either the 19s or the 20s or whatever. How much did you lean on? Did you pick her brain of like, what was it like? Blah blah blah. Like, how much did you try and pick other people's brains to
Mhm.
prepare yourself?
I would say I did not do that enough. I probably should have done it more. I remember, I think hers was like April. It was like
Mm-hmm.
mine was June, hers was
Mm-hmm.
April.
Mm-hmm.
I did for sure ask her, and like she like gave
Right.
me tips, gave me insight. I did not pick her brain as much as I should have, but I do think there was value in like going through it yourself
Yeah.
too,
Totally.
and like learning about it, learning from it. She is someone too that like I mean I just love Maddie. I played with her for 2 years.
Yeah.
Following her college career, I'll play against her.
Yeah.
Hopefully we don't actually play them in regular season, but hopefully in the playoffs, like I'll get to play against
Sure.
her. Most likely next year, regardless. But so she is someone like she is an inspiration. Like I admire her so much. I have so much respect for her.
Yeah.
And so like having her in like those similar positions, like being in the same boat, like getting to talk to her about like US stuff and
Yeah.
just like her experiences and like hearing her funny stories, hearing her stories of like being in her hotel room too, like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like it does like bond you and it does like it
For
helps to
sure.
have someone to relate to because it is hard. Like sometimes you go to school and it's like no one really can understand it. Even with
Yeah.
ESOM, like people don't understand why are you gone all the time? Like it's like, oh yeah, I'm going to Kansas this weekend. I'm going to Michigan next weekend. It's like, and that my face sounded like I hated that. It was great, but
Yeah. Oh no. No.
no,
It's just it's
no,
not that it's not that normal of a thing. Like I
no, not at all.
when I talk to players who play like this high level club where it's really sort of like a national, essentially like a national travel schedule,
Yeah,
it isn't like a thing every kid experiences. I mean,
oh my
it's
gosh, not at all. And like I remember like I got an email like this was like 2 years ago or something of my like schedule for the year, and it was
yeah,
like scrolling of like this trip, this trip, this trip, this trip, and they're awesome, and I love the trips, but like there was a lot
it's
of them.
wild. Yeah.
So that's why even like going back to having Maddie to go she's going through it too. Not
Yeah.
like it's like something you're going through, but it is like an experience that you're going through.
Yeah.
And having someone to relate to is just
Yeah.
has been huge, I think.
And then last and most importantly on the US stuff, what US gear did you get to keep? This has been my question from the very beginning. Do you get to keep any of this stuff? I feel like
Okay.
back when I interviewed Nikki and April, what feels like a decade ago, they were like, "No, we didn't get to keep anything." I'm like, "You didn't get to keep anything? Did you? So do you have
Okay.
anything from these camps?"
I'll give you the
Go.
inside scoop. Okay, so anything that was US crested
Mm-hmm.
did not get to keep. There was one shirt in North Carolina that we did that was US crested because it's a travel shirt.
Uh-huh.
And we got a different one in Florida, which it was like navy, and it was actually cool. It was like the
Yeah.
crest was like in red,
Yes.
But it wasn't like the normal USA. It was like red outline. I don't know. It was like
Yeah,
a cool kind of USA.
it was like reversed out where like this would be red. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I
that was
love
like
that.
actually. I've gotten those two
Mm-hmm.
of crested gear. I
Mm-hmm.
will say the amount of Nike gear I've
Yeah.
gotten is a lot. Like
Okay,
there's a
nice.
lot of like just a random pair of shorts, and
Okay.
it's just Nike, and I'm like, sweet, like I get to just expand my Nike, like,
Okay, good.
and then it's a bunch of random, like I remember one in Florida, we got a yellow shirt,
Sure.
like, a very interesting color for like a
Yeah.
t-shirt. It was a yellow shirt, and it said like Nike across the whole thing. Like the whole thing was like a big
Yeah.
Nike logo.
Yeah.
And it was a cool shirt. But I'm like, I really can't see myself wearing this at home. But it's a workout shirt. It's
Yeah.
dry fit. So like we get a lot of Nike gear. I've gone 2 or 3 pairs of shoes.
Sure.
And one pair of shoes especially was like really, that was one we got for Chile, and it was like had like the laces were like red, white, and blue, and
Oh
it was
yeah.
like a little flag on the corner. So those are really sweet. But
Oh yeah.
and then I've gotten like 2 or 3 pairs of cleats.
Uh-huh.
My stupid brain didn't check my cleat sizes, and every time I've gotten them, they're not the right size. Because I either ordered men's, it was like they said to do women's, and I did men's size, so it's too small. Or actually, the last one, Florida, I checked my cleats. Or no, I actually didn't check my cleats, but all my shoes are size 9 women, 7.5. I was like, I'm getting it right this time. And then I didn't realize that actually my cleats are the one shoes that are 8 and 9.5. So I get the cleats and they're too small. And I'm like, are you kidding me? But it worked out. We were actually able to exchange it like at Planet Soccer, and I got new cleats. So it worked out really well. But still, so like other than that though, we do get a lot of Nike gear, but you don't actually get to keep that much like USA stuff.
Is there anything, if you could have got to keep it, any of the stuff that you didn't get to keep, was there anything when you wore it you were like, oh, this is sick, like a zip up or like anything?
Oh yeah, yeah,
What
yeah.
would have been like the thing if you
Oh,
could, you would have wanted to be able to rock?
the thing is like I don't ever wear it at home. I like don't even wear the shoes because I don't want to like be like, oh, are you on the US? Like, did you
I
get USA?
I I'm gonna go ahead and give you full permission on behalf of the entire world. I was gonna say the opposite. I'm like, you need one of those training shirts so you can just kind of wear it around. It's
No,
like how,
like,
but
yeah.
it's like how by the time a player has committed to a college and they're
Mhm.
like rocking the crew neck or they're
Yeah, I
rocking the
don't
thing.
wear like I'm wearing it right now, but I
Yeah,
don't wear it
baby.
that much. Like I actually don't
See,
wear it as much
this
as I
is, I think
should.
full permission to all players watching the show. You all work your asses off so hard. I think it's okay to be a little more braggy. We can up the brag factor. Don't worry. Don't worry.
I love that.
Nice.
The warm up jackets were cool though. It was like
Yeah,
they had like cool like detailing on the sides, and it's
for
like just
sure.
like USA. I mean, the one that, like if I would have loved to keep that jersey, not that I really would wear it, but like
Yeah.
number 20, like
Mhm.
USA. I don't know. I was like something super sweet about like first international game, even with like the youth program. Like
That's pretty
that would have
sweet.
been really cool. But
It's pretty sweet. I mean, it's like even, even seeing you score that goal, it's so funny cuz I went down and I watched Maddie down in the Dominican in person, and you're in the stadium, and even like the youth national team, because there's not that many people covering the game, like in the global sense of like the women's game, there's not enough coverage. I was the only journalist at the entire
yeah,
CONCACAF U20 championship. And
man,
so,
that's
and
crazy.
so I was there, watching the game, and it's so funny because it is this like huge momentous thing. They qualify for the U20 World Cup. It's like so many pros and full national teamers get their start in these youth national team camps.
Mhm,
And so when I'm watching like the game you're playing overseas
mhm.
and you get your goal and you see it, it's such this momentous thing in
Yeah.
my mind to see you do it
Mhm.
because I know what a moment it is.
Yeah.
But for you in the stadium, like what was the actual setting? Like other than what it felt like to you,
Yeah.
what was like this, what did it feel like in the place you actually were?
Yeah. I would say it actually like the whole like if you watch the bench, like there's a view at the bench and like the
Mm-hmm.
whole bench like goes
Yeah.
crazy. Which I was just like so cool. Like I was kind of like shocked. And then I was like, oh my gosh, like I did that, like what? But and that was also the tying goal, and there was
Yeah.
like 4 minutes. I don't even I think it
Yeah.
was like
Yep.
8 minute or something. It was
Yep.
like 4 minutes left. So like that was actually it was like now we're tied 3-3 against Spain. We're not gonna well, we could get scored on again, but like we're most
Right.
likely not gonna lose. Oh, sorry.
Right.
Um anyways, and
That's cool.
and Yeah, so like that environment. I mean, my grandparents were there to watch too, and my dad was there, so that was really cool. Like giving them a hug afterwards. Like the stadium itself was like bare, like not
Yeah,
full whatsoever.
totally,
There was like
totally.
parents. That was probably it. There was like
Yeah,
parents and like refs and some local people, I guess. But
yeah, yeah,
I think just the environment of like the way the team reacted, like it made it like even
yeah,
a much cooler like
for sure.
moment too. But yeah, that was so like that was like one of those like surreal like core. I mean, talking about inside out core memories, like firmly implanted in my brain though, like for sure. I mean, no matter where my career takes me, like in the
Yeah,
future, like that will be one of like those like crazy moments. And my dad was like, I would say that is your like most special goal, and then the goal like for the state championship, like
yeah,
those two, like they're just like unmatched like
totally.
memories and moments where you're like, wow, like that is something truly special.
Yeah. Well, it just cements the whole thing. I mean, like going into multiple, each camp you go into feels more special, and then
Yeah,
each milestone of like
yeah,
first goal, first whatever, if you get called in for some random like tournament and some trophy is possible, like that feels like a
totally,
moment, or like, by the time the next U20 thing happens or the next
totally.
U23 thing happens, it's all just like these really cool like bricks to build for sure.
Yeah.
Well, and so let's pivot to a little bit to talk about Notre Dame. So I don't think this answer will necessarily be that insane. Both your parents went to Notre Dame, so it's
Very.
maybe not shocking to anyone on earth that you ended up at least
I don't
considering
think that
them.
many people were that shocked when they found
But
it. But yeah.
but when you obviously were a very top player, from a young age. I'm sure you could have gone to nearly any school you wanted to, if not essentially every single school that you wanted to. But again, that legacy factor. But talk about when that recruitment started. Sort of what was your mindset, or what was your sort of what was your sort of starting place of like, okay, programs can talk to me, and so here's what I'm thinking I'm interested in.
Okay, so obviously it started like June 15th.
Mm-hmm.
That was like the big day. My dad, he's really into like statistics. Like he's like in
Mm-hmm.
finance, investment banking, like all that stuff. So he's very like numbers oriented. So like we
Mm-hmm.
had like charts, we had things like rankings, like all this stuff, like based on everything, like based
Mm-hmm.
on then actually at the end we did more like based on campus and like academics and all that, like more specific to like specific schools.
Yeah.
But my mindset going into it was like, first of all, I'm going to be grateful for anything that I get. Like
Yeah.
anyone's even like, this is like a dream from when I was
Yeah.
like 10 years
Totally.
old, like in my backyard playing, but even like younger than that, like the idea that I'm going to be playing college soccer, like no matter where I would, like I would have an opportunity to play college soccer was insane. So like
Yeah.
that was one thing that like with every call, I was just like, thank you. Like, and although they're trying to recruit me, it is like a big gratitude moment.
Yeah.
But I would say my mindset towards Notre Dame specifically wasn't like now looking back, I wanted to go there the whole time.
Yeah.
In the moment, I was like, I'm keeping my options wide open. I'm not.
Yeah.
Coaches would ask me, like, we know both of your parents went to Notre Dame. Like, are we wasting our time here? Which now that I went and going there, like, I'm like, ugh. But
Right.
still, like, so they would like ask me that, and I'm like,
Yeah.
no, like, I'm keeping an open mind. I took all 5 of my visits, and I
Yeah.
loved all 5. I actually like loved all 5 of them.
Yeah.
We can go through those in a bit, but
Yeah.
I think it was kind of just, and then like you had the first round of calls like around June 15th, and then we had nationals. So we had playoffs in Seattle. I know
Yeah.
they were in Seattle 2 years ago, and then we, and then it was kind of like a second round of calls, like follow up, like where we're at.
Yeah.
And then I would say by the third round of calls, that's when it was like we started planning visits, and we had like a
Yeah.
couple more sprinkled in, but then it was like, where am I going to do my 5 visits? And I'm
Yeah.
not sure, I could be wrong, but didn't they change that rule? Like you can, I feel like you can have more than 5 visits now.
I don't. I
But
know those. I know those have been tweaked year over
yeah,
year. Like the June 15 is now like that major milestone. In my time covering the game, they switched from recruits used to get talked to when they were like
I'm thankful that
eighth
it,
graders, and now finally like you have to be more like that sophomore, junior, whatever. So yeah, and I mean, it had gotten insane. There's a reason they eventually made that change, because
totally.
I think it's already crazy what you all have to decide at like 15,
I know I was
16,
15, yeah.
and then imagine doing it at like 13, 14. I mean, it's just sort of ridiculous.
Well,
I think it was maybe the offer that Moultrie got at like 13 or 12 or whatever. I think finally that made people say like, "Wait, what are we doing
he's
here
in
again?"
middle school? Yeah. Oh, for
Wait, so what were those what were your 5
sure.
visits that you did?
Yeah. So I went on, this is actually funny too, because I did the whole month of August and the first week of September. I went every single weekend.
Yeah.
But it was like amazing.
Yeah.
It was a lot. Like, but I
Yeah.
went to Notre Dame, obviously, Michigan, Penn State, TCU, and Vanderbilt.
Okay.
Those are very different, which
Yeah.
that's kind of what I wanted.
I was gonna say that's a very different spread. I
Like,
think
yeah.
for people who don't follow the players I've talked to, I don't think people necessarily appreciate enough how different like a Big Ten versus an SEC visit
Mhm.
is.
100%.
Like I think I've told this story where, or maybe someone said it even on the show, but I'll recuse the details of it in case it wasn't said on a show. Someone went to an SEC program tour and they only realized after 2 full days of a tour that not like one single time did anyone mention academics.
Oh, there was a couple, even like I'm not gonna say it, but like one
Yeah, yeah,
I went to didn't talk about academics at all. And
yeah,
this is shocking because like I knew there were good, like all the schools I went to were good schools.
sure.
Like this one especially, I was like shocked. There
Hmm.
wasn't any talk on the campus, any talk, and like that
Yeah,
changes the way like, and I'm very academically driven. Like
yeah,
I
yeah,
want to challenge myself. Like I want to get a degree. Like I want, like obviously
yeah,
I want to play soccer after college. That's like
totally.
for sure where I want to go, and like that's where I can see myself hopefully going. But
Yeah,
I think I still have always pushed myself in school. Like I've been like
yeah,
kind of like that nerd who like is doing the AP tests and doing the AP classes and all
yeah,
that. And so like academics were important for me. So I think that's where like in the
right,
end also Notre Dame's balance of academics and athletics, like having such top notch for both,
right.
being so top notch for both is like something that was really appealing for me. But um pretty much like I went to Penn State, which is 45,000 people. Michigan's
Yeah,
probably close to that. I think
uh-huh.
it's very similar to that.
Yeah, they're huge.
12, I don't know. Notre
Hmm.
Dame's only like 8, like 9,000, ten
Yeah,
thousand, and then Vanderbilt might be even smaller. Like, so it was very much like spread across. And then Vanderbilt was more academically driven, less athletics. Like,
yeah,
hence it's more athletics, less academics. Michigan
uh-huh.
that boat too. So I loved the way that I did it actually. Like, I got kind of all over the country. Like, Texas, I was like, I love I'm a very like I love my family. I was like, that might be too far. Like, I don't
Yeah.
know if I can live that far. Also, it was like 105 degrees on my visit. I don't think I could do this either. Like, it was, oh my gosh, it was so hot. Like, I'm like sweating thinking about it. It's really hot there. But still, like, people go to Texas and they have an amazing time. And
Yeah,
I loved every visit, but I think it was just like all like it's all about finding the right fit too. And I
yeah,
think the best fit for me is like I wanted to get out of Minnesota. I wanted to get away, which I love
yeah,
the U of M coaches, but I was like, I
yeah,
just don't want to be in Minnesota. I don't want to go to college that close to home.
yeah,
So like that's where it's like I had to turn around. But
yeah. Well,
Indiana, like in Notre Dame, is like going to be the perfect distance, I think, from
yeah,
my home, and it has the balance of everything. I love the coaching staff. I love the team culture.
yeah.
It just felt like home. And obviously, maybe like there's a bit of brainwashing there. There probably is. There probably is. I mean, I went to campus when I was 6 months old, so I'm sure that there's something there that like just brings me back to it. But still, I did make my parents. They didn't push me any direction. They weren't like, oh look, like we like Nate Norman like a lot, like we like Notre Dame. Like they didn't do any of that. They were like, you're making the decision on your own. Like we're gonna guide you. We're gonna be here to support you. And they like we can talk about that. I can talk about them for hours. They are amazing. But still, like yeah, they were very happy with my decision. We'll just say
There was, yeah, there wasn't any brainwashing. I mean, yes, we watch Rudy every Sunday night.
no,
Yes,
not
we
at
were
all.
watching.
Like, I was talking to someone an hour ago about the movie Rudy. I don't like it just
Have you seen it,
oh,
Izzy?
not every Sunday.
Okay.
I'll probably like I don't remember the last time I watched it. Probably like 2 years ago or something.
I
But
mean, I
I've
mean,
seen it probably like 5 times total.
honestly, you can get the emotional element of Rudy just by listening to the score. We could just like throw the score on and just get we can get the emotions out that way. Well, and during your recruitment, were you sort of lucky enough that like the offers themselves, like the scholarship offers, were at least vaguely similar enough that
Yeah,
you really were just choosing on fit? Like, were you in
yeah.
a position where, whatever type or structure of offer, or full versus whatever you were getting, or athletic versus academic you were getting, was it sort of like vaguely similar enough that you were mostly just like, what's the fit?
I was very blessed that that was the case.
Yeah,
And I think sometimes maybe it makes it a little bit harder. It's like, oh, this one's giving me this,
yeah,
this one's giving me this, so I'm obviously going to go here.
yeah,
But yeah, I would say it obviously makes it a little bit more tricky, but I
yeah,
think they were all vaguely similar
Yeah.
enough that it was more based on.
Yeah.
And like I decided, like I did, it was never like even doing those 5 visits. I was never like Notre Dame all the way, Notre Dame all the way. Like I was really trying to like balance.
Yeah.
I'm a very like meticulous. Is that a word?
Yeah.
That's a word,
Like
right?
methodical. Yeah.
Methodical. Yeah, I'm a very like thought process. Like I was like, I'm gonna pray on it. I'm gonna think about it. I'm gonna talk to people I know. Like,
Yeah.
and so like I knew. And then after I made the decision, and then I went back to campus like a month later. I was like, yeah, I made the right decision. Like
Yeah.
there was
Yeah.
no regrets and haven't had any since. So like there's everything like I'm so excited for. But
Totally.
yeah, that thankfully to go answer your question though, thankfully they were similar enough that it was more on the right fit.
Right. Right. Nice. Well, I'll take a quick break to thank our two sponsors. You can see them up on the screen. Pentz Homes. Thank you so much to Nate and Lydia. I'm sitting in a home that Lydia helped us buy. Nate helped us sell 2 houses. If you are someone looking to find a new house, sell your house, do a remodel, talk to Pentz Homes. I'll continue to repeat this offer. If someone is looking to do a house hunt, I will literally create and produce a House Hunters episode of that house hunt. If any player or coach wants to do a house hunt, I will produce an HGTV like show for you, and Nate and Lydia will be there for you. Random offer. Someone take me up on it. And then also want to thank Modist Brewing. I've been drinking this nice, fresh, super deluxe. Props to them. They're a brewery right down by Target Field. So if you're going to grab a Twins game, it's right by the Target Center. So if you're going to go watch the Lynx, who are absolutely crushing it right now, swing by Modist Brewing. So happy to have their support. Any tailgate we do at stadiums, I will bring Modist and you can come drink it for free. So thanks so much to Pentz Homes and Modist Brewing for supporting us. So let's jump in. Izzy, this one I'm just curious. It's a fairly different question compared to what we've been chatting about. You've won so many awards: Gatorade Player of the Year, Metro Area Player of the Year, Athena Award, a million, all everything, a million awards.
Yeah.
Is there any for you that have felt very specifically meaningful for because of what it is or how you got it or whatever? Is there any award that really sort of meant maybe even more than all of the many that you've gotten?
I mean, I'd first like to say like how grateful I am for all of them. Like it truly, like if you told me even 4 years ago, like I was a freshman, like that senior year, like I would be getting all these awards,
Yeah.
I would have been like, I mean, hopefully, like that's the goal, but like I'm not like you're kidding. Like, come on. Like it has been, especially the senior year, like truly a year of just so many blessings, like so much to be grateful for. And I truly couldn't have done it without the people that supported me. So I just want to say that first and foremost, because
Yeah.
every single one I get, like even the Gatorade one, which was like a week ago, like
Yeah.
such an honor, like to be like named like out of all the amazing players in this state and the amazing
Yeah.
players that I get to play against who have like either been my teammates and like helped me and supported me through that, or like played
Right.
against me and pushed me to become a better player. Like there's
Mm-hmm.
way too much to be grateful for. But I would say probably the one that like, oh, I don't know. They were all really cool. I can't
Yeah.
lie. But
Yeah.
I would say one that like was like a bit like a bigger not bigger milestone, but for me was the specialist part about the Athena Award was that was over all the sports. It
Yeah.
wasn't just soccer.
Yeah.
And that was something because there are some freaking crazy athletes, especially female athletes at Edina.
Yeah.
And so I've been picked out of those in my grade. Like my grade has a ton of girls going to like we were talking earlier, like
Yeah.
play hockey, soccer, like across the country, like other
Yeah.
sports. Like, and so to be picked out of that and not just like out of the sport that I've been playing when I was little, and like also even like to have track come into
Right.
it, and like, that's something that like I didn't do it senior year, but that was another really cool thing. I got to meet so many people,
Yeah.
stay in shape, like do these cool workouts, and like run against people, meet a whole complete like different community at Edina. So like even have that come into play too. And then I got to like there was a banquet for all the Athena, and I will tell you, it was cool. It felt like a beauty pageant in like the kindest way possible. Like we walked out and there was like they were playing an anthem, like they had a band playing an anthem, and then they would call people by your school. So they're like, Wyzetta's late, like Wyzetta's not here yet, like Edina, like you're up next, like, and it was like literally it like felt like a Miss Minnesota kind of thing, like Minnesota, where are you? Like, so I don't like even that experience, and I got to meet. It was like funny, like we were put at randomly assigned tables, and I was with two other girls going to Notre Dame. One was running, and one was going for athletic or for academic. And like I got to meet two people that I'll be in college with next year, and
That's cool.
having that like whole like community process of like that award specifically. And I got to see like more fruit come from it and
Yeah.
not just like my name on a plate. Like that was something really special. The second one that probably comes to mind is the Miss Soccer one.
Yeah.
That was something that like I had, especially, I mean, when Maddie got it, I was
Of
like, I
course.
want to do that in 2 years. And
Of
like my coach,
course.
like told me they're like, you keep working hard, like you have to keep wanting it and you keep
Yeah.
working for it, but we can see you going and getting that award. And then, so that was something that like I really wanted, and I really was hoping to put myself into a position to get it because it wasn't going to come for free. Like I was going to
Yeah.
have to perform,
Yeah.
and then to be picked like in front of all the people, and then I got to give a really cool speech, which like I've become really much better at public speaking, but like like it gets you nervous. But like to be able to like say like, man, I talked in front of like a couple thousand people
That's cool.
about my sport and about something that I'm really passionate about was like something surreal. Like that was really cool. So those are
That's
probably
very
like
cool.
top two that come to mind. But
Yeah.
every single one like has so much meaning. It has a lot of hard work behind it, obviously.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I said, nothing here is like given. Like there's
Yeah.
so many amazing athletes that they could be picking from. And that's why it's such an honor for me to even be like one considered or like chosen. I'm like, what the heck? Like
Yeah.
sometimes I'm like, how is this my life? Like
Yeah.
I worked really hard, but it's
Yeah.
still like there's a lot of moments where I'm like, I just want to enjoy the moment and just be in awe of like this
Yeah.
creation and like what it's become. But
Well, in the Miss Minnesota soccer thing, I think when I talk to people who, follow the game at a decent level and whatever, people from Minnesota regularly feel sort of underrepresented in the U.S. soccer landscape in the sense that, especially in women's soccer, I have way less expertise with bros, but like for women's soccer, you know, we literally have a list that Mark tracks every fall where it's north of 100 Minnesota players like you who are playing high level D1 soccer across the country every year. We as a state are exporting 100, 150, 200 players every single year that are playing, D1 college soccer, let alone the very good D2 soccer, the good D3, the whatever. And so, like, to be the best amongst that crew is like very meaningful. I mean, it's a very big group of very strong players. And so it just is really cool. And I think earlier I mentioned I did see you have a posted highlight fit to talk about your game a little bit. And so I watched through it, and it's short. I will also say I loved that somehow Stronger by Kanye
okay, I
is the
was like, I
song.
was trying to think of which one you
This
watched.
is
There was one.
which is amazing because that song was obviously a hit when I was actually young, so that's great. So I loved hearing that in there. It was fun seeing even like the short clips. I don't watch a ton of high school, don't watch a ton of club. I mostly start tracking players by the time they're in college or in summer league or whatever. But it was fun to see even just like short snippet of your highlights to see like the level of body control. You mentioned liking to dribble by people, and there was multiple clips where it's like a super tight space where you get the ball, you turn, and you just in the tightest possible space dribble by a player, like the coolest like tight space move. Tons of different multi-tool finishing, ripping it to upper shelf, keeping it low and precise, like so much good stuff. Your running stride really jumped out at me. You mentioned being in track, but even like your stride was sort of visible in there. For you, as someone who's played so long, you've trained so much, there's so many things that you have like fine-tuned about your game, I'm sure. Which things do you feel like you remember most being sort of always part of your game, like things that you seem to just like innately be good at? And what things are you most proud about sort of growing in your game through that kind of training and repetition and all that work?
I would say the biggest things, which like kind of what you said, like stand out, is like obviously like my God given and parent given abilities to run and like my strength, my height. I'm 5'9", like
Yeah.
I'm on the taller side for a girl for sure, and like
Yeah.
that helps. I'm actually I don't know. I don't know if I should say it. Like I'm not the amazing at heading. I'm still working on that one. But my height helps me. Like I can get away with it because my height helps me. So I'm getting a lot better. But anyways. But for sure, like I think the things that like I've innately had is like good conditioning, like just good metabolism, great speed. Like I've worked a ton on my speed. I've like obviously like fine-tuned my stride and all that. But those are things that like they are God given, and they're things that I was born with, and I'm able to exploit it and use them to the best of my ability. But I think a lot of the other things, like I can't remember ever being like, oh yeah, like I for sure had like a good touch, but like I had to work so much on those dribbling moves. I remember two biggest things that like I had to fine tune so much was like my speed when I was dribbling, because there was like, oh yeah, I can do all these little moves, but
Mm-hmm.
and then I have a fast stride and I can sprint,
Right.
but I needed to combine those two. I think
Yep.
once I did that, and
Yep.
was able to like learn and like how to like dribble at speed and like keep the ball under control at speed,
Yep.
that's when it's like then I can go into the game and like
Yep.
dribble by people
Yep.
at speed and like go and like attack. And like it's
Yep.
funny because like even when I'm playing, I can tell like when the gears start shifting and then it's like, okay, now we're going full speed.
Yeah.
We gotta keep this ball under control. And sometimes it gets out of control, obviously. But that's probably one thing. And the second thing that I remember is my finishing.
Yeah.
I mean, I scored like I think I scored like 3 goals freshman year, and then I was like 20 something, and then like 30 something, and then like 40, like 41 or something. So like clearly something went from 3 to 20. Like something
Mm-hmm.
had to change. And I remember, like, if anyone asked me like what's the best piece of soccer advice you got, Katie Offet told me that, and like she would remember this, I think. But
Mm-hmm.
I remember her telling me, she's like, Izzy, every goal doesn't have to be an ESPN goal. Like you're not gonna hit in that upper 90. And I think
Yeah.
my freshman yourself was like wanted to like bury it. Like
Yeah.
I have the opportunity, I'm gonna hit it as hard as I can because I want this to go upper 90. I want it to be a really good goal.
Right.
And we talked about earlier, like no one's really gonna remember unless it is an ESPN
Yeah.
goal.
Yeah.
There's very few times no one's really gonna remember how you scored the goal. They're just gonna remember that you scored.
Yeah.
Sometimes I don't even remember how the goal was. And after
Yeah.
like, an hour after the game, I'm like, oh yeah, or even that if my team scored 4 goals, like we're trying to think of like how did we build up in that second goal? I couldn't tell you. So
Yeah.
it's like you really like aren't gonna remember. And that was like something that was actually huge for me to hear and be like, okay, I'm gonna work on slotting it bottom corner. That's something my coach at MTA
Yep.
told me, Storley, and he's like,
Yep.
low far post. That's just like everyone at MTA knows. Danny says low far post. And
Mm-hmm.
I think there couldn't be more truth behind it. Like
Yeah.
you need to like finding those areas, and like it takes a lot of practice. It takes a lot of experience. Like
Yeah.
my finishing, like you got like it's so situational. And like you're
Yeah.
gonna see it in this game, like in this moment specifically, the goalie shifted a little bit to the right. So slot it near post, maybe in the air, maybe on the ground, like depending on her positioning,
Yeah.
depending on where you are on the field. Like so there's a lot of things that like over the years I got better at, and I got more able
Yeah.
to fine tune it because of the experience that you get in those moments, and like kind of getting like adding stuff to your toolbox. I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
now I scored this kind of goal, like I can do that again, like all that. But
Yeah.
those are probably the two biggest things. That was my finishing, and my finishing needs some work still. Like
Yeah.
always need work to get. The most frustrating thing is leaving a game and being like, I left 3 goals on the field because I couldn't pass in the corner. Like so and obviously you're gonna make mistakes anyway. So you can't like that is one thing. You can't be super hard on it. There's
Right.
difference between being really hard on yourself and being like constructive criticism. So
Yeah.
we can talk
Yeah.
about that later too, whatever. But
Yeah.
yeah, those are probably the two biggest things, is like combining that like God-given speed with the dribbling aspect, and obviously just like keeping the ball under control. And then how can I score goals? How can I finish? Like I love scoring goals. Like
Yeah.
it gives me like a very like I love scoring goals. I love setting my teammates up to score goals too. Like,
Yep.
that gives me a lot of pride and stuff to be able to be like, I set you up, and then she did what she
Yeah.
knows to do best, and showing your teammates strengths too. So
Yeah.
to answer your question in a very long way, that's
Well, you talk about, I love the way you put it as like just adding tools to your toolbox, because like when you talk about dribbling, even in your short video, like the difference between, okay, I'm pinned in the corner and I have two defenders on me and we're stand still and I need to beat one of them. So I need to begin a move and get past them, but it's from scratch. Basically, everyone's standing still and I have the ball in the wing.
I
And
love
that's
it too. Yeah.
and that's like one skill. It's like, can I beat them end line and send in the diagonal ball? Then, a completely different scenario is somehow I rip the ball off and I have a little bit of space, and now I can run in space, run at the back line.
Yeah.
But I still then like dribbling at full speed or building up to full speed is so different than dribbling from scratch. The from scratch stuff, and even like that touch. I remember I've seen you post or mention Techne football,
Yeah.
which I'm gonna have to name drop here. I've interviewed Yale Averbush, who started Techne football. Shouts out Yale Averbush.
Yeah.
But like that's all of that repetition, all those touches. But I love how you talk about the finishing too, because it's the advice Katie gave you, the advice Danny gave you, because it is ultimately, it's like, man, in college and the pros, like goals are so precious. Like you just have to get the goal. Like how do you get the goal?
Oh yeah. And like some games you might literally, your team might be like getting absolutely dominated. Like you're not, and you might get two like opportunities the whole game. Like your whole team might get that. So how can you capitalize on those two opportunities to make the game more interesting, to actually give yourselves a shot?
Yeah.
So like, and sometimes you have 20 opportunities and you score 10, and then those games aren't actually that fun.
Yeah.
But anyone's surprised if you don't play soccer, they're not that fun. Those are like my least favorite. But still,
Nice.
but yeah.
Nice. Well, Izzy, now it is time for a segment that still to this day no one has told me they like or want, but I continue to love doing it. And it is a segment called The Internet Said It. You are not an overly internetable person, but you do have some good nuggets out there.
Oh,
there is a great video you did like 4 years ago for the Girls Soccer Network on YouTube.
The second, yeah.
It's so great. There's tons of good stuff in there. Also, watching like a little 13-year-old Izzy, like just being so good, like a bunch of straight to camera stuff. It's super adorable. So there's some good stuff in there. You are half Brazilian, so on your mom's side.
I like told the whole internet, like my whole like backstory. I was like,
well, it was honestly made you very researchable in a good way. You are trilingual. I'm curious how sharp you still are in both those places. So Portuguese, English, and French.
I'm good. Okay. Not to toot my own horn, but I'm pretty good at both of them. Yeah.
Well, if you're good, then okay. Now we have a task for you, Izzy. You need to tell everyone in Portuguese or French, you can choose. Say, hey everybody, make sure to subscribe to Equal Time, or make sure to follow Equal Time Soccer anywhere on social media, or whatever, however you want to say it. But let's give a Portuguese or a French read of that.
Okay. I'm trying to think of the word follow.
Or support, or you can use any synonym.
Bonjour tout le monde. J'aimerais, comme Izzy, j'aimerais que vous tous abonnez à Equal Time Soccer sur toutes les plateformes, et parce qu'ils ont beaucoup de bonnes informations, et cette production était très amusant de parler avec Monsieur Matt aussi.
Think of all the support we're going to get during the Paris Olympics now, Izzy. This
right? I'm telling you, I was thinking, I was like, okay, I was just thinking, but which one could I say follow? Like,
there you go.
When I found French, I was like, okay, we'll do it in French.
Where did the French come from? Obviously, Portuguese came from your Brazilian heritage, but where did the French come from?
French was actually, so I have been speaking French since I was 5. I went to Normandale French immersion.
Gotcha.
So I did, and it's funny because we'll all say, like, whatever you just heard, like, I peaked in French in 5th grade.
Sure.
I think that was
because you were speaking all the time
at school. And then I kind of got to middle school, and then it was like, okay, we're speaking a lot more English. Like I have 2 classes in French, like maybe half my days in French.
Yep.
And, oh my gosh, high school comes around, you're speaking French for 50 minutes.
Like,
3 times a week.
Yeah.
And then you're with all your friends, so you speak English in the class.
Yeah.
So really, it dropped off significantly, but I'm looking to still do French. I want to do French in college. I feel like I can't imagine not doing it because I've literally done it my entire school career. So yeah, but I love, like, I mean, my family we actually went to the Paris World Cup.
Ooh.
2019.
Wow.
And we watched one Brazil game and one American game. And that was like such a cool experience.
Unbelievable.
But my parents, so me and I have 3 younger brothers.
Yeah.
And the youngest, they all also did the same French program. The youngest one's in 4th grade, so he's still at Normandale Elementary School. But we would be ordering our food, like, instead of my parents. Like, we would be the ones, like, talking to the locals. Like,
they're
like, can you ask for, like, directions to this place? We're like, bonjour, est-ce que tu...
Yeah.
We're, like, all, like, I mean, I was younger. I was, like, 12 or 13 or something. But still, it was, like, it's just, like, something real. It was really cool. And then we went to Gothia Cup last year in Sweden. And we actually won the tournament. So shout out to my club team. We did really well.
Yeah.
That was literally amazing. That was such a cool trip. But and we would be not playing against any, like, but we would be staying in the same, like, school as, like, these Brazilian boys and stuff.
Yeah.
They would, like, say something or, like, make comments, and I would go and be like, I understood you, like, in Portuguese, and their jaws would drop. I don't look Brazilian at all.
Yeah.
I have blonde hair, blue eyes, like, white skin. Like, I don't look Brazilian at all. And so, like, they were, like, all like, you understood us. Like, I mean, I'm Brazilian, whatever. But so that, and, like, being able to, like, ask for directions, because, like, we're in Sweden, and, like, I remember one woman, it was like, we like started speaking English or like asking her, and she was like, seulement français ou, and then like another language, like Dutch or something. And so then I
Yeah.
like started asking her in French because like it just is something really cool. Like I've been so grateful to like, yeah, I speak three languages. I can talk to people from other cultures. Like people also appreciate like
Yeah,
there's the stigma of like Americans. Like everyone, a lot of people speak English, which is
totally.
great. But like even being able to go to like another country and be like, I can actually speak your language and you can speak to me in the way that you're comfortable.
It's very
So I
cool.
don't know. There was some that's been like a really cool blessing. Just and I mean, I think I probably learned Portuguese more than or earlier than English.
Yeah.
Like she says, like until I was going to elementary school, I would speak Portuguese all the time.
Yeah.
And then you're going to school learning French and
Yeah.
now being surrounded by kids who speak English all the time. So
That's wild.
obviously it kind of turned into that. But
Well, and now we know when you're going pro, the big time clubs in France can come after you and
I know, like
you'll be able to integrate. So
Mhm.
we'll have competition. I love it.
Exactly.
Well, so Izzy, the internet also said via this video we were talking about, I love that you listed the 5 places that you did visits,
Mm-hmm.
because in this video you were asked which colleges you were interested in, and
I was like 13, I think, when I did
yep,
that.
and
Yeah.
you listed 6 of them. Do you remember the 6 you would have listed at the time? And I will spoiler it for you. It is not the same list as the ones you
No,
actually did fish
no,
with.
no. I remember Notre Dame was on there.
Yep.
They were for sure on there.
Yep.
I know Stanford, I think,
Mm-hmm.
UNC, Duke.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I couldn't.
Yep.
Maybe Penn State? I
No,
can't. No, not. Oh, I mean, I guess if you said
there's 2 more.
Santa Clara.
Uh-uh. Same
What?
region though.
I don't.
Same
US.
general
I don't. USC.
UCLA.
Oh, UCLA.
And then there's one more opposite end of the country.
Oh. Oh, I have no clue.
BC. Boston College was your other one
BC.
on there.
Yes.
I love that on there. And only other random internet said it question,
Oh
and
no.
for all we know, the record is different now. You posted a clip and an answer about what your juggling record was.
Uh huh.
Do you want to take a guess? You probably have beaten it since then. Do you want to guess what it would have been then?
I don't. Oh, I'm trying to think if like I got this before then. I have not gone for my juggling record since I was that age.
Yeah, you have
Well,
other
I can
things to
tell you
do.
it now. It feels so like not stupid saying it because like I think if you can get 100, you can get 1,000. Like
Sure, sure,
once you have the basic, like if you
sure,
want to take an hour of your
sure.
time, go for it. Like you
Yeah,
can do it.
yeah.
But okay, it's like 6,784.
That's spot on, baby. Look at that. Look at
I
me
told you.
whiz.
I knew I remembered it. I didn't know if it was like the same. Yeah,
That's great. I love
that was
that. I love
very.
that.
That was that video. I don't think I rewatched it. But
It honestly, as someone who has to rewatch their old shows a lot, and I am horrified by it,
mhm.
you did great in that video. For being
Good.
like a 13-year-old,
I mean, back when I was young, like okay,
you were like ready to go, like well spoken. It was like you did like a very good job. Don't worry. So if you watch back, you might be horrified, but a normal person would be like, "Wow, that's an impressive
good.
13-year-old."
I mean, I remember like this is actually just a funny story, but I have this like really good friend. She's like gonna play hockey in college, so she doesn't play soccer.
Yeah,
She watched because she followed me. She like watched that video, and
yeah,
I think I said like, "Is like how much should I be running?" And I think I said like, "You should be running 3 to 5 miles every day." And she tells
yeah.
me, she was like, "I heard that," and I was like, "Well, crap, I'm not running 3 to 5 miles every day." Like, Izzy told me though I should start doing. I was like, "Oh my gosh!" Like, of course I said that.
You were slightly more flexible. You said 1.5 to 5 miles, which
Oh,
I only know because I literally watched it this morning. But don't worry, you gave a little more
I gave
flexibility.
him
Don't
more
worry.
slack. Okay, good. One and a
Honestly,
half.
I'm surprised the answer wasn't even crazier than that. 1.5 to 5 is like normal human beings actually can kind of do that.
Yeah. Should have been like, yeah, 5 to 10. Like, you should be running
Yeah,
80 miles a week.
right. So you also mentioned in that video, you had done swimming and track. You were part of like very successful track teams at Edina. I think you still hold the record or did have the record for
Yeah.
the 4x2, 4x4 relays. No
Yeah.
big deal, guys. No big deal at all. And we know that athletic versatility is important. I'm very close with the Doug and Lisa Jones family head coach women's soccer, Nate Norman. We're very
Mhm.
tight. We're very close. He texts me all the time, obviously,
Mhm.
as people know. He
Mhm.
just texted me while the show was going on,
Mhm.
and he said the way he's going to decide the rotation this fall
Oh
is
no.
through a non-soccer related athletic challenge. And so the first test he's going to put you through is people on the Notre Dame women's soccer team are going to have to play basketball against each
Oh.
other to earn their spot.
Uh-huh.
So let's say it's a full court 5-on-5 situation. Coach Norman just told me this.
Yeah, did he?
What position are you going to be playing on the court, and what are you going to bring to the team? What's sort of your intangibles or your skills?
Okay.
You're
Is
5'9". For
is the
folks who don't
main
remember, she's
position the point guard?
what's that?
What's the like main position? I don't even know
Point,
basketball.
yes, point guard. Yes, the one who handles the ball a lot. Yeah,
Yeah, so I think I would play point guard. Um, I think because it's a smaller field, but I feel like I don't know as much that speed matters as much, but even just like
right.
the quickness and explosiveness
Yeah.
of agility.
Mm-hmm.
I hate to say that my hand-eye coordination is fine.
Right.
Hands don't like it's not as like my feet work a lot better.
Yeah.
But I think I would bring a really good level of competitiveness.
Yeah.
Obviously, I would bring
Mm-hmm.
good leadership,
Mm-hmm.
communication,
Mm-hmm.
movement.
Mm-hmm.
Because like not that I really know
Mm-hmm.
like exactly how
How's
basketball
how's the
movement.
jump? How's the jump shot? How's your jump shot?
Actually, okay, this is just yeah, I'm actually not the best basketball player, but like I can shoot from
Yeah.
like a 3-point line and it can go in 1 out of 10 times maybe.
Yeah.
Like I can do something a little
one
bit.
out of 10.
Yeah,
1 out of 10. The confidence in the 1 out of 10. I
I
like
know,
that.
right? No, maybe a little, maybe 2 out of 10. But yeah, I mean I'm tall too, so if it's
Yes.
girls versus girls, I'd be on the taller side.
Yes.
I don't know if that would really help me like
I
um
from what I hear, height does help in basketball. So
oh,
I think it would be good. I think it would be good.
I'm saying
So
I don't know if my 5'9" body would still be able to dunk. I
I
don't think we're getting to that, but
well I yeah we could play on 8-footers. We could play on 8-footers.
mhm.
The next is going to be it's within sort of your strengths. It's going to be track and field, but it's going to be field events. It's
Oh,
not any running events. So what would be your go-to? Are we talking long jump? Are we talking triple jump? Are we sort of cheating by just doing a running field event? What's your field event?
I would do long jump. I actually thought about doing the long jump,
Mm-hmm.
like when I was doing track, obviously.
Yeah.
But I think for me, like the reason why I didn't do it was that I was already like running 3 events every like meet and like to the point.
Yeah.
Like I also didn't know necessarily. Like I would have to learn how to do it, which like
Sure.
Maddie picked it up in a month and she broke the record. So like
Sure. Sure.
I'm sure I'm not saying I could have broken the record, but like I'm sure like I could have picked it up pretty quickly. But um I would probably do long jump. I think
Yeah.
I remember being like, oh, I don't want to like hurt myself with like my ankles or anything. Like I
Yeah.
just with soccer, like I was always like kind of like I do not want to like I was totally fine running because
Yeah.
obviously like running and like that's totally different. But I
Mm-hmm.
was always like kind of particular about not like overdoing anything like specifically that could like I love skiing and I haven't skied in like 3 years because I'm like there's just
Yeah.
always that kind of thing. So that's why I didn't do long jump probably, but I would for sure do long jump if I had to do a track and field event. I feel like I could
Yeah.
get it pretty quick.
And lastly, this is in some ways actually closest to your soccer skills. We
Mhm.
actually just got word that the Notre Dame football team lost all of their kickers, and
Mm.
you're gonna have to go kick.
Oh,
We're not gonna make you punt because punting sucks. I hate punting. It has like nothing to do with soccer skills. So we're only gonna make you kick.
mhm.
And so, are you thinking, are you going to bring more value if we have you doing the kickoffs, like kick for power, or are you more of like a accuracy based value? Are you going to be better at like the field goals or the kickoff, do you
Yeah.
think?
Um, I'm just gonna go ahead and say both because I feel like I don't know. It's like my shoot.
Mm-hmm.
Like, well,
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking soccer wise. Like
Yep.
sometimes it's like I'm shooting and it's like aiming on a free kick and then like
Yep.
curling the free kick into the corner and like away
Yep.
from the goal. And other times it's like just trying to like hammer. Like there was
Yeah.
one goal that I scored from the half field.
Yeah.
That game was insane. Like we had to win to like make it or to like, keep going in.
Yeah.
It was like at home, but it was like to like make it to nationals and stuff. And we
There
like
was a,
on it's
I'll
in the
link,
highlight video probably. Yeah,
I'll link to it. It's in there. It's unreal. It's awesome.
I thought. Yeah. So I have so like I do think there is like power piece of it too.
Sure.
So I'd like to say that I'd probably like just knowing that like you want like I love scoring goals and all that. I'd want
Yeah.
to do field goals because like
Yeah.
that you're getting like there's more pressure too, which like
Are you someone who's taken a decent amount of set pieces in your life?
oh yeah, yeah. I used to be like my club teams, like, or I was I don't actually, can't even
Yeah.
remember if this year I was the corner kick taker. I think I
Yeah.
was. Yeah, for my high school team.
Yeah.
And for club for the past like few years, I usually was. And then my coach was like, "We want you in the box. Like, first of
Yeah.
all, I'm tall.
Yeah.
Like, I can score on headers and stuff, but like, I can also block for like we had two really good headers on my club
Yeah.
team. So like, I was more like
Yeah.
being a distraction because people would follow me and like, they're
Yeah.
like, "Oh, Izzy's not actually going to
Yeah.
go for the ball." But also just being in the box to like
Yeah.
score. Like, the closer you are to the goal, the more
Yeah.
likely you are to score. But I was like the free kick taker for my club team. So I do think like I do
Those,
love like those pressure moments too
yeah.
of like precision and having to do that. But
Field goal kicking, I kicked for 3 years at a very low D3 program. Shout out to the University of Minnesota Morris right here. Um, so field goal kicking is kind of like taking a set piece. You just add in that like large people are running at you,
yeah.
but otherwise like learning the steps, I think it'll translate. I think you could be good. Shout out to Jocelyn Tanner,
Uh-huh.
Minnesotan, who played keeper at South Dakota State. She kicks for the Minnesota Vixen, and they
Mhm.
are in the playoffs. She's playing tomorrow at
Oh,
North
really?
St. Paul High School in the playoffs. So go check her out. And shout out, of course, to Maya Turner, who's
I
kicking up.
trained with her this morning.
Oh my gosh!
That's
I mean,
Yeah, I
shot.
was like at a training house with her this morning.
She
She's
is.
awesome.
She's kicking up in Manitoba. Was like the first woman to score points in the like Canadian football, like university level. Just ridiculous, big time stuff. Shouts out to them. Um, well, Izzy, we have kept you way too long. Talked about the youth national team stuff, Edina stuff. Heading to Notre Dame this fall.
Mhm.
Folks should follow her. She will be in the equal time Minnesotans playing D1 roundup for sure. Thanks so much for joining us, Izzy.
Yes, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
All right, thanks, guys.